Hello again. I particularly want to try and get through the final few victims as quick as possible, and then we get on to the slightly more interesting stuff because it's quite disheartening when you realise just how many people Ken Kratz was luring into his sexual fantasies, abusing, manipulating, bullying. You know, we've only got these 15 that came forward, some of which didn't want to be named. Pretty clear there's countless others, because some of the witnesses have said that he talks about the fact that he likes to meet many women. So here's number 12, Denise Wynick. Her report was taken in October 2010. They met once again through Match.com. They never actually met. She put that even through the early emails, it showed the, as I've called it, the prize's perverted personality. She was fearful of his initial emails, and then actually realised that, you know, the dude needed help. There's very little you can do with somebody like that, maybe except for put him out of his misery. When she rejected him, he became annoyed. He boasted about the fact that he put that I am insanely smart, funny and romantic. And that when it seemed as if she wasn't interested, he suggested that she needed to take a look under the hood to see what you're missing. As I say, they never actually met. Number 13 was Deborah Locke. They met in 2006 via the website singlesnet.com, of which the sweaty prize was a paid up member, so he could contact anybody on the list, but other people were not full paid up members. They could only be contacted by those. She put that he was very forward and sexually explicit. She also put that he never mentioned that he was married. Well, the clue there is in the title. It's Singles Net. So there was no chance he was ever going to confess to being married on Singles Net. And he was, it was a long time yet before he was divorced from his second wife. They communicated on and off for about a year and never actually met. It's interesting, isn't it, that she's never put in any of the specific complaints, other than the fact that they communicated on and off for about a year. We wonder what if she's come forward, to make a complaint. One wonders what she was actually thinking of revealing about what had happened, and maybe had second thoughts. Maybe didn't want to wash her dirty laundry in public. And you've got to realise that a lot of these women, that they only came forward once Stephanie Van Grol's case came forward, and then they felt slightly more comfortable about explaining what had happened to them. Next up, number 14 is Sheila Wallace. They met via Match.com. They dated for a while, and she broke up due to, quote, a number of problems. We can quite easily guess at what those problems were. Next, if you go through the DOJ reports on the Convoluted Brian, you will find documents pertaining to the seizure of Ken Kratz's work computer at the Calumet County District Attorney's office. It was confiscated as evidence, and at one time they were worried that Ken Kratz was going to go into town and possibly gain access to all his stuff in the office. They even changed access codes to ensure that he could not get in. We then have reports of 4 case files regarding an unknown person. Your guess is as good as mine as to why they're there. We then, interesting, isn't it, with the case at the moment, we then discovered that there were 2 CDs created that looked at Ken Kratz's communications, particularly via his mobile phone. And what's particularly amusing is a message that he sent on September the 15th of 2010 to the Department of Justice. He simply wrote to somebody within the department that the DOJ has decided to ignore our non-disclosure agreement and leak to the Associated Press all the details of last year's complaint against me. He's put simply, it was a nice career, and we're just glad that it came to a sweaty end. You know, I mean, there's such a lot there you can talk about, particularly the fact that some part of the DOJ had, according to this, made an agreement not to disclose anything, but another part of the DOJ had decided, absolutely not, this needs to be known. A whistleblower, maybe. Finally, we get Christine Lavick, who, this is Ken Kratz still trying to lure people through the sexting scandal. This is, you know, this is February, March of 2010. We already know that Stephanie Van Grohl's complaint goes back to her reporting it in 09, September of 09. You know, so rather than thinking, you know, I better keep my head down here, Ken Kratz decided he can just carry on in his sweet merry way. He could, in effect, shut up and mute and prevent anybody from talking about this, because he was the greatest prosecutor in Wisconsin history, of which he's told many people many times. So anyway, Christine Lavick met, as I say, in February, March 2010, again through Match.com, and she actually complained via Jim Doyle. And her main complaint was that Ken had really tried to push his authority because he was the famous DA, because he was the one that had prosecuted Stephen Avery. He couldn't help but tell her about how great he was. You know, it would be, you know, you get the impression that he just wanted to say to all these women, you know, you are going to be so bowled over by me because I'm going to be the prize. You know, you don't get any better than me. How great he was. Now, here's the interesting thing. On this occasion, he did mention that he was married, or at least it came up in conversation. And when she took exception to that, because, you know, she said, you know, what do I need somebody who's married for? He actually acted like it was her that had the problem. Where have we seen that before? That twisting of the situation. Interestingly, one or two people have asked, quite rightly, what is the relevance of going through all these 15 names? I think, first of all, as I say, because Making a Murderer did not go, maybe they didn't have the information, but they certainly did not go through all 15. Let's just run through them all again. Stephanie Van Grohl, Maria Riskovich, Dawn King, a confidential informant. Number 5, Susan Sorensen, Rebecca Heatpus, Connie Palm. 8 and 9 were confidential informants. Number 10, Rennie Braun. Number 11, another confidential informant. 12, 13, 14, 15 were Denise Wynick, Deborah Locke, Sheila Wallace, Christina Lavick. The relevance, well, Ken Kratz, of course, is facing multiple Brady violations. We get, don't we? We get to see that Ken Kratz is not at all worried about doing anything wrong or unethical, because he, in his mind, knows that he cannot be caught out, because he is the law. Now, I would just like to add, as I say, I'm not a lawyer. I'll make these videos purely because I would like to try. I would like to think of myself as kind of like the voice of people's conscience, their ethics, of which clearly Ken Kratz has none whatsoever. We see what makes Kenneth Kratz tick. It's his ability to twist the facts. And when he twists things, he makes it so that it's not him that's got the problem, it's everyone else. And if there is a slight problem with that, we should forgive him because, you know, he's the greatest DA in Wisconsin history. But here's the point. What we really find out about him is that he seeks out and he lures all types of victims and all ages of victims. He particularly likes to go for the vulnerable ones and the ones that he can manipulate and bully. And I think that's the main thing. The fact that he was able to manipulate the case against Stephen Brendan so much so. Just a totally despicable and deplorable character. I wanted to get through the last four because, as I say, I really want to get down to the fall of Ken Kratz. From 2008 wanting to run for being a governor, or a senator, or whatever he wanted to do back then. He wanted to run for Congress, I believe. But then going from hero because he won the Stephen Avery conviction to zero. And that's what we want to look at next. We want to look at all that happened to him in all its wonderful, gory detail, Ken. And we're doing it because, let's face it, we don't trust you. We don't trust you one little bit. You are a pathological liar. It's in your makeup. It's in your character. It's in your DNA. You know the rest. Bye for now.